We are right at 1 o'clock now and getting started with the 2020 Goldenseal Summit. Robert, would you like to give a brief introduction of our event today?
Surely. I felt at one point that Goldenseal was going to be in big trouble. I had heard from manufacturers that they couldn't get material. I was hearing from people who grew that there wasn't enough a price for them to dig it out of the ground. And it seemed that a whole bunch of the problem was on the wildcrafting. Now, in North Carolina, we're not dealing with that, and we don't have enough Goldenseal to even consider it, in my opinion. So I think that we just need to put it back on the endangered list in North Carolina and work with getting our Goldenseal growers to have their toolbox so that they can grow real easy. It's an easy plant to grow if it's in the right situation. And that toolbox will allow more farmers to come on board. And then the manufacturers need to have some kind of relationship with the people who are growing it so that people can go to sources like middle people like Ed, and numerous farms can sell to Ed, and Ed could then eventually sell to a manufacturer. That's the idea, to get a trail from the forest to the manufacturers so that the people still have Goldenseal to purchase in their stores.
Excellent. Well, it's a great vision and certainly one that is necessary in this time of Goldenseal needing our urgent help. So we have 5 tables today that will be addressing questions that have been proposed to them. Our panelists of experts responding to look at all the different aspects of implementing the vision Robert just elucidated. We have a table 1, government, legislation, and North Carolina Plant Conservation Board. That is what we'll be starting with here today. And just for your information, of course, we'll have a 5-minute break between our panel tables. So starting at 1:30, then we'll move into forest farming until 1:55 with a break. Then at table 3, we'll relate to industry and all of the causes, different aspects of that whole topic of bringing the Goldenseal into products and out to the markets. Then table 4, beginning at 2:30, will be university and agricultural extensions, and moving that together with some herbalist people that we have combined, and then starting from 3 to 3:25, our table 5 nonprofits. So we can go ahead and begin with table number 1, which is John Ager, Gary Kaufman, Leslie Stark, and Damian Waite. Now, I'm not sure if we've got all of our panelists in there yet for that whole table, but we can begin in whatever order you would like to go ahead, which John Ager is here.
Lisa, I had asked Gary, who was there in 2012, to start us off, and Janine was there in 2010 when it was taken off, to give a little background, and then Leslie can come on with the new proposal. And John Ager was not in the house at that time.
My name is Gary Kaufman. I'm the botanist, plant ecologist for the National Forest in North Carolina. We, here in the National Forest, we cover here in the mountains about 1 million plus acres across the Natahale and Pisgah. These 2 forests have some of the best suitable habitat for Goldenseal in North Carolina. About half of all the North Carolina documented populations occur within those 2 forests here in the mountains. And this represents probably the greatest number of populations and the largest populations on public lands in North Carolina. I was involved, I gave information back in 2010 when the Goldenseal was taken off the plant protection list for the state. And I primarily gave information on our populations based on some of our monitoring. We do not nor have we ever, as far as I know, allowed any collection of golden seal on the national forest in North Carolina. We, however, we have seen some poaching on some of our populations. And I provided some of that information back in 2010. So perhaps maybe we should turn it over to you, Leslie.
Sure. So I'm Leslie Stark. I'm the program manager for the North Carolina Plant Conservation Program. We're in the State Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. So to give a tiny bit more background than that, we're the state regulatory agency that can legally list plant species at the state level. Not every state can do that, and different states do it in different authorities, but for North Carolina, it's the Department of Agriculture that has that. We work under the North Carolina Plant Protection and Conservation Act, and that both established our board, who actually has the true regulatory authority to list and maintain a list of species, but also to set the rules and regulations that govern those plants. So this 2010 date that we're referring to was the last update to the protected plant list, which is part of the rules and regs under the Plant Conservation Board. As was mentioned before, golden seal was previously a state listed species on that list. That would, by being on that list, any species would be designated as either endangered, threatened, or vulnerable. And it doesn't particularly matter which designation you have. All of the limits and regulations are shared equally for any species on the list. So you're either on or off. It doesn't matter if you're endangered or threatened, you're just as protected at any of those levels. So in 2010, after a re-review of the listed species and other track species in the state, golden seal was removed from that list, is what we're talking about. In the last maybe 2.5 years, the board has been working through a new set of proposed updates to the list to review the current status of listed species as well as not listed species to see if they warranted being listed. And they've, as of January, finished that review process. It's an interagency process through our scientific committee, which has memberships or folks representing multiple other agencies and organizations. And through that review process, it's been proposed that golden seal be relisted at the state level. The next steps for that process are to have a public comment period. That list was sent to be posted on the state register right before the coronavirus changed everyone's schedules dramatically. So that hasn't happened yet, but it is in the hopper to go out for public comment. So soon that will be available. It'll be a 60-day comment period. Steps following that would be to address any and all comments, and then so long as no major points are made to not carry forward, golden seal would be proposed to be re-added to the state list.
Yes, is it, it's going to be possible very soon to put that information out, and we will put it out on our Facebook page,
Right.
and link to anything that you think is important. We encourage people to help comment on this so that we can have the backing of the public to, or at least this nursery field to go ahead and put it back on the list. I'm happy to help, and our organization is happy to help in that comment period, because we may not have the edited version of this to come out in a sync time for us to push that forward. But let me personally say that it's going to be a campaign of mine and my organization's to make sure that people like the board understands how important this is.
Can I ask Leslie a question? This is John Ager.
Go ahead.
Yeah, my question is, I know the range of golden seal goes all the way up to Canada. What have other states done in
Yeah.
golden seal?
Sure. I actually prepared a couple of PowerPoint slides. If you guys are interested, I could share my screen and show you a couple of maps that might help me answer that question. Is that possible?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So this first slide is the range distribution of golden seal for the eastern US. You can see it does range into Canada. That's not the full map visible there, but you get the idea. What you're seeing here, this is from the BONAP website, which is the Floristic Synthesis of North America. So the brown areas are basically where no data occur. The green, the dark green represents a state that has some record of this species in the whole state. The bright green are the county level, well, they highlight counties and they represent that the species is present but not considered rare. And then the yellow indicates counties that know that have records of the species being present but considered rare. So that hopefully gives you a little bit of a picture of the range and state by state, how common or uncommon the species is. You can see for North Carolina, it's really just hugging the edge. Other states, it's more throughout. A similar map, but different. I go to my next slide. This is from NatureServe. They also do a tremendous amount of data management, and they collate data held by different states' natural heritage programs, which is the data clearinghouse for North Carolina. And they push this through their website and give a non-legal status assessment. They represent the species as vulnerable at the global level, which is what that G represents. And then each state or sub-national ranking is also provided at the state level. So you can see North Carolina in this yellow is showing vulnerable status, Virginia, West Virginia as well. And then these other levels of conservation status. So here's a little summary that I did prepare for what the other states are saying. So for North Carolina, currently it is a tracked species. So even though we took it off the list, the Heritage Program continues to collect and maintain data on this species. When folks visit known sites, like the data that Gary was talking about, when he and his staff do additional monitoring and they send that data in, it updates that ongoing database despite it not having a legal protected status. But it is tracked as significantly rare, which is the bare minimum to get onto that tracked database, but it's also noted as being exploited. It does see a lot more harvest than the next rare species maybe beside it. So like it says there, it is proposed for state listing as vulnerable on the protected plant list. South Carolina, it is not tracked. Georgia, it is listed as state endangered, and it is included in their wildlife action plan, which means they can receive funds to do conservation measures for that species at a federal level. Tennessee, it is recognized as commercially exploited, but is not tracked. So they may have an idea of where this species is through herbarium records and other types of record keeping. Maybe different land managers have notes of this, but it's not tracked in a systematic way. And in Virginia, again, it is not tracked, but it is on their watch list. Watch list, this tracked list, protected list, these terms I'm throwing around, I'm sorry, I probably don't have enough time to really define them well, but they're all terms put together by the state heritage program. And so they are comparable state by state. Watch list basically means we're keeping a file on it, but not going to the level of geo-referenced data sets.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question?
What is that one state that shows
Yeah.
secure?
I'm sorry, Lisa, could you
The
speak
blue
up?
one that says secure, what state is that?
Where are we seeing that?
You got Pennsylvania, Ohio, Kentucky,
I
Tennessee.
think you mean Missouri over here.
Is that Missouri? Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And so if I switch back over here, you can see they have a lot of county records where they're not finding that to be rare.
Leslie, that's great. Thank you. Just one quick follow-up.
Yes.
If the goal is to declare it, endangered in North Carolina, will these neighboring states be able to bring in enough golden seal to, keep the commercially grown too cheap? I mean, I think that's part of the problem, if you get what I mean.
Well, I think I understand you, but could you maybe rephrase your question and
Sorry.
ask me again?
So if the neighboring states, it's not endangered, and people can collect it and sell it, just having it listed in North Carolina may not have much of an economic effect, is what I'm thinking. You're still going to have too much golden seal on the market. Is that? I'm not a real authority on this, so I'm just guessing.
Well, John, let me just mention that we're concentrating on North Carolina right now. And
that's all we can do.
That's all we can do.
All we can do.
There is a United Plant Savers YouTube on golden seal that we've recommended in our emails to you. And
Yes.
so it talks a little bit more about the rest of the country other than North Carolina. But as far as this specific event, we're just dealing with North Carolina.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Right. So in terms of what would happen by adding golden seal to the state protected plant list, that would limit or preclude wild harvest without a permit from our office. And the for nurseries or other institutions that were to grow the plant to propagate for sale, they would need a separate permit from our office. So those are like the two main regulations that being on the protected plant list really entail, is wild collection and propagation for sale. There are a few others, but those are the two that most of the action is really seen.
Leslie, this
yes.
is Janine.
Hi, Janine.
And I was involved in working with golden seal when it was an endangered species, and that
Yes.
permit process really was a holdup for us trying to encourage cultivation. Is the Department of Agriculture in a better position to make that, especially now with computers and such where we are? Is that going to be more efficient for us? Because I hated seeing that was a stumbling block for us.
That is a great question. I'm glad you brought that up. I would have forgotten to mention it. So yes, since it wasn't really because of the 2010 update to the list, but since the last update to our protected plant list, we have pretty much completely changed the way we permit propagation for sale of listed species. Our permits for research purposes and wild collection and that half of things is still done through our immediate office, but the nursery side of things for certificates of origin is really the method we've been using instead of our permit system. They're fairly equivalent, but they do show up as separate entities in the rules and regs. We've switched that entirely to our field staff that you might know as our nursery inspectors. There are our plant pest specialists. They have a multi-county range, each of them, but we have, I guess, I should know this number, maybe it's 15 of these folks throughout the state. And so several of them would be within the golden seal range, and they can issue those certificates of origin much, much faster than we used to. So I do think that that'll be significantly improved from how it was before the species came off the list. Yes.
Great,
Leslie, Robert Eidus, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I'm wondering if the county extension agents might be better to take the application and give the certificate and keep it local and then pass that information on to the state. Because before, the people would send in for their application, for their permit, and they wouldn't hear from anybody. At least this way, the local people would be, and I do get inspected by the guy from Newland. I forgot his name right now, but
Ryan?
yeah, they're real hard to get in touch with. And the ag extension people are right there all the time. They pick up the phone. And I think in a more administrative way, it might be better to start with the grower coming to the ag extension, signing up, getting his permit, and then that information being sent on to Rob.
Well, I can appreciate how that would probably allow for more folks to have an immediate interaction, because you do have to make an appointment with our inspectors. But this is a regulatory matter, and we have only so many people that work under that umbrella. I don't foresee us changing that component, but I will say we've had, like I mentioned a second ago, a huge improvement. This is no longer a ship it to Raleigh process. It'll be still involving folks on the ground that that have been, how should I say this? They've had a huge impact in speeding up this process for many of our other species too. It's not just Goldenseal, but this has been a process for anyone that's propagating a listed species has to go through this. And once we were able to transition to the field inspectors to do that process in their normal nursery inspection process, it greatly sped up the turnaround time.
Okay, let's see how it works.
Yeah.
Okay, Lisa, I think that's what we wanted to get across.
Okay.
I don't know if there are any other questions from this group of people, but
Did John Egger have anything else to add? He was on that table. Did he have any other thing to add there, John?
Yeah, I'll just go ahead. That's fine. I'm the state rep. One of the problems when I bring the subject up of Goldenseal or ginseng, I guess it falls to the wildlife officers often to detect illegal poaching of ginseng. And curiously, I find that some of my Republican colleagues don't think that's a legitimate function of theirs. I had to beat that back once. And as many of you may know, I am a farmer. I'm out here at Hickory Nut Gap Farm. We have a whole mountainside here that I would love to put under cultivation in the ways that you all are promoting. So I'm very interested and it's been more of a challenge to get my mountain delegation interested in this subject than to me it should. But I'm happy to help out in any way, especially Leslie with your effort to get it put back on the list.
Well, great. And I actually have a follow-up to what you were just mentioning there. Another change that has happened since Goldenseal was taken off the list. In fact, this is a change as of December of 2019. Until December of 2019, we had a little bit of a break in the circle for both the Plant Protection and Conservation Act and the rules and regulations therein. And then what do you do after that? Like, how do you actually enforce these? Our Department of Agriculture doesn't have, plant police. We don't have the law enforcement component built into the plant conservation program. And so that did cause some difficulties in the enforcement side, unless we were able to see enforcement through, a land holding agency that had their own, whether it be Wildlife Resources Commission or the National Parks and Forests. They have the built-in law enforcement, but we really didn't. And December of 2019, the Department of Agriculture and Wildlife Resources Commission entered into an MOA to where they will be able to officially enforce our plant laws. So this is a humongous difference. It wasn't really workable before to be able to call Wildlife Resources Commission to ask them to, investigate suspected plant crimes. They didn't have really quite the right authority to do that. And so through long deliberations and great negotiations, that has been, that part of the circle has been closed. And so I think that's going to be a big game changer as well, especially for ginseng, but any plant. well, ginseng plus any plant on our protected plant list.
Great.
Yeah, great. That you would think that would be easy to do, but it sure wasn't.
Yeah, some things just aren't, but it's done, so this is good.
Right.
Okay. I'm happy about this, Lisa. Um, uh, maybe take a break and we can go on to the next table unless anybody else has anything else to add.
Well, I do if we have the time. I was holding back because I wasn't for sure how we were doing in terms of staying on schedule. But I'm just curious about the robustness of the data. I was looking at the website while you were talking there and trying to get a sense of the data and how robust it is. And can you just tell me what your thoughts on that are? Because, you know, I'm not questioning that golden seal is threatened or endangered, but the only thing I know that we really base that on is it's a lack of availability in the marketplace, you know, and or people just saying, I'm having a hard time finding it, you know, which is
No.
different than you know, a lot of monitoring sites that are showing this. And so for both, and I also wonder if there is equal access to private land as well as public in these monitoring locations. So can you just speak about the data a little bit?
I'd be happy to. So the quick maps that I was showing a second ago of those observational data, that is not the data set we were using. That was just for kind of quick reference because they were already created maps. The data we're using are a much more structured data set that the Natural Heritage Program out of the Department of Cultural and Natural Resources is maintained. That includes data from many, many entities. Your point about equal access to private and public land is a decent one. I don't think it's true to say that private land has been surveyed to the extent that public lands have. However, the counties where golden seal is, known to be from have had county level inventories done also by the Heritage Program, and those do get more boots on the ground, so to speak, into a wider variety of areas. It's still true that public lands have been surveyed more, but I think the robustness of the data is quite good. We always need more data. Sites need to be revisited, checked on, make sure that they're in still the same quality as they were the last time they were observed, because they are snapshots in time. For those sites that have been monitored for years, like the monitoring plots that Gary Kaufman was mentioning before, that builds a bigger picture of the trend. And so one thing I didn't mention on one of the other slides I had there was really how we go about evaluating these species and what their status is. It's not just what you mentioned, like, oh, I'm having a hard time finding it. It's really detailed accounting at individual populations and then how the multiple populations are doing within the state as well, and comparing at small and broad scales. So being able to determine what the threats are to every species that's listed is a mandatory part of the process. So we list, collate, I shouldn't say the word list and get us confused, but we bring together the top 3 threats. We note others, but we work with at least the top 3. We want to know how severe the threat is, how wide-ranging in scope the threat is to the species at the full population level. Some threats are devastating in one spot but don't really affect the species elsewhere, so we're trying to gauge that. And then also how immediate the threat is. Is it happening now? Is it something that's coming in the future? And it's actually this really kind of fun, if you get into the data of it, matrix level process where we evaluate those 3 levels of each threat for multiple threats, and then also consider the trend for populations throughout the state. And with all that information, to the best of our ability, to get good data at these sites, we're ending up with a pretty robust picture of what's going on. The main change between 2010 and now that has encouraged the board to consider relisting the species is a noted downward trend. So more populations have been decreasing over time, and we're able to track that with real data. And that's really where this came from.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yes, we are wrapping up Table 1 of Government Legislation and Plant Conservation Board. We went a few minutes over there, but good to get that information about the data. And we'll be starting Table 2, Forest Farming, in about 5 minutes. So let's get back to our chairs by 1:37.